St. Beauty in the house.
Hello.
Hey, guys.
I want to talk about the video and, of course, the EP that comes out next week. But if we could, just for a brief moment, take it back to square one and Atlanta, Georgia. You guys are both from Atlanta, the Atlanta area, and you met working at the same vintage store. Is that right?
Yes.
And do I understand that there were artist showcases, I think, at this vintage store?
Yes, in the basement.
That's so cool. I think things like that, I love vintage, and there's some great vintage shops here in the city. And I think events like that are so important for communities. Can you talk about what these artist showcases were back in the day?
They were amazing, first off. It was great to be a part of putting together those events, too, because there wasn't a lot of things like that in Atlanta back then. And it really helped a lot of artists become known around the city, especially us. And it helped us, go to other venues as well. Like, that wasn't the only place that we would perform at. Like, other places would want us to come to their venues and perform randomly, and we would just get opportunity randomly just from performing in that basement. So it was beautiful to be a part of that.
Fond memories, I bet. Now, is that where you guys first connected as artists?
Well, not as artists, because we both kind of had our paths before we met each other. Oh, okay. But Alex wanted to perform. She asked me if I knew anyone who could play guitar, just in passing. Like, we would share playlists before, so we kind of started our musical, relationship that way. And I was like, well, if you send me the song, I can learn how to play. So that's kind of how it started. I started off as her guitar player, for the showcases, and then we continue to work together and practice and write songs together, and then that's how we became St. Beauty.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You talk about trading playlists, and I feel like so many friendships kind of start that way, right? Do you remember the first song, or maybe it was an artist that you really just connected on?
I know we were listening to a lot of Frank Ocean back then. We would always play Frank Ocean in the store,
okay.
And Little Dragon as well. Those are the top two.
Right on. Frank, of course, probably remains a favorite to this day. I want to talk influences, though. You guys have cited, speaking of the worlds of the R&B and hip-hop, Kid Cudi as an influence, Santi Gold, yes. Of course. Stevie Wonder, I know, is huge for both of you guys. But, the thing about influences, and it's a common interview question, right? It's who are your biggest influences? I feel like maybe there are overarching influences, say a Stevie Wonder. I'm sure that's just always there, right? Always quick in mind to think of. But I do feel like as artists, you go through phases and you catch little waves or vibes, and a particular artist or sound really begins to influence you in a particular season. So I'm curious, who is influencing you the most right now?
I find myself listening to Gladys Knight and the Pips right now. I don't know why. Well, I kind of know why. I was watching this movie called Claudine, okay. And then they did the whole soundtrack. So I just was like, oh, let me dig deeper into this. So that's when I started kind of listening to her more. Actually, Caught, when we first started producing it, there was a sample of Gladys Knight in it, but we couldn't clear it. But yeah, so
that's awesome.
I would say Nina Simone. She has always been my inspiration, and she's always going to be an ongoing inspiration because her music reflected the times that she was in, and that's what I strive to do, is always write about the situations that I'm going through in those moments. And yeah, Nina Simone.
Awesome, great picks, of course. How often does that happen? I'm curious, where you're really loving an artist's work and then you sample it. Does that ever happen, you're being inspired by them and then you kind of try to put them in the song? Do you see that crossover a lot happening?
I wouldn't say we try to sample, but we do listen to the sounds of the songs that we like, and then try to take whether it's a tambourine or a trumpet sound or whatever. We want to kind of include that in our music because I just feel like it had a soul. Some of the songs that we like to listen to and the musicality in it, the instruments, we just always want to have a live instrument in our music. So, hearing little things that you don't hear now, we want to incorporate in our sound right now.
Does that tie back, that sort of idea or that sentiment, does that tie back for this love of vintage? Because I know you guys met at a vintage clothing store, but even the aesthetic I think is a take on vintage, of the video we just saw, and even here we see the cover art for the EP coming out next week. Do you guys try to incorporate sort of a vintage spirit?
Definitely, always. We love the 60s and the 70s, and the music back then was amazing. Yeah. I actually have a documentary of the Monterey Pop Festival, which was in 1968, and I love going back to that documentary as a reference that, we can make music like that, like Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin, and, we can make music like that, but also add sounds that, are today.
Yeah, and that's what, I mean, you do that visually too. That's what caught me. I was telling you downstairs before we went live, but it was like when I saw the caught video for the first time, I was like, this isn't like an over the top, like, stab it being vintage. This is like, it's almost like an updated, I don't even know what to call it. You know what I mean? Yeah. But speaking of labels, actually, speaking of things to call or label things, confetti. Can we talk about the term confetti? Because you guys don't think of yourselves as R&B or pop or funk or soul. You guys the music you make is called confetti. And I love this. So explain for our friends at home watching right now what confetti is.
Confetti. So confetti is what we call our genre, and we call it confetti because we feel like confetti has so many different phases, kind of like a lifeline. And, when it blows out, there's this exciting moment. When it's falling, it's a moment of being in awe or whatever, and it's falling on people's clothing, and it's on the ground and swept up and thrown away. And we feel like our music embodies all those different phases. Sorry, music. Sorry. We feel like our music embodies all those different phases of confetti and the colors and how you feel when you see confetti. We feel like our music is that.
I love the term because, I think a lot of buzz terms are market, not that that's a marketing tactic at all, but you hear these terms, in music, and it's like, all right, what does this mean? Is this just some flashy thing to say? But the definition, I'm like, you know what? This is confetti.
But before we had a song called Confetti that was kind of about like a bunch of, like feelings and vibes about like what we felt about like what was going on in the world. So like it wasn't just something like, oh, let's make up in it. It was like, confetti, and like, everyone always asked us what our music sounded like, and it was very hard to put it in one little box. So we just kind of referenced what we already are, like all the things that we've already kind of thrown out there about who we are. So confetti,
Absolutely. Apropos, I like it. I wanted to ask you, Alex, about, I know you're a big believer in the power of the mind and manifesting dreams and bringing dreams into reality. And I'm curious, of course, you're off to a tremendous start with St. Beauty here, but what are some things in your life, maybe professional, maybe personal, that you're really proud of looking back, that you were able to manifest them into reality?
That I was able to manifest into reality.
Yeah. Bring to life.
I think this, because there's a whole story about how it even led up to the point of me meeting Isis. And that was, I was struggling and trying to figure out what I was going to do because I was dropping out of college in that moment. And I was kind of upset trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't know that it would actually happen. And one day, I was upset, and my mom came in my room, and she's like, "What exactly do you want to do with your life?" And I told her, and then after I told her, she prayed for me. And then we went out that day, and we tried to figure out what could bring me closer to what I wanted to do, which was music. And we went out that day trying to figure out where to go, and then we stumbled upon the vintage store, and we went inside, and they were technically closed, but they let us in anyway. And that's where me and Isis met for the first time. Yeah, that same day. And I knew that I wanted to do this in high school. It's always been something that I spoke about, and I went to my old Facebook and I was like, one day I'm going to be on stage with so-and-so, one day I'm going to do this. And everything that I used to speak back in high school, it has actually taken place. Even to the car I have, like everything. So it's just speaking things into existence is real. You can really manifest everything you want in life if you just believe it and imagine it in your mind. You just have to have that vision. And when you have the vision, like, it'll happen. Yeah. Seriously.
It's funny. That is one of the cooler things about social media. Social media, good and bad stuff come out of it. But that is cool where you have documentation of, these dreams and you can look back and be like, wow, and you see it happen with artists. Yeah. I'm curious to actually ask you, though, because you're obviously, you're an abundantly talented musician and singer and artist. What do you think it is about embracing what you really want to do that makes it so, or that is so hard about doing that, right? Because here you are, you have the talent, it's abundantly clear to everybody, but it's still hard to admit, like, I want to do this. Why do you think it's that hard for all of us?
Because we're doubtful. Maybe we doubt that we can do these things, but if you really put your mind to it, you can do it. Like, it's as simple as that. And I'm still learning that every day. Like, I'm learning to really put my mind to something and know that, you know, regardless of what I'm going through, regardless of, you know, what I think about myself or about anything, the end goal is always going to be there if I just push myself and know that, whatever, let me just stop thinking this way and just go and do it. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Isis, I know I've read in the past you saying that one of your biggest motivating factors for becoming an artist is having the opportunity or the platform to sort of express yourself from a place of vulnerability. And I was curious, do you find it easier to do that in the music space, on a song, on a record, than in your personal life as yourself?
Yes and no. Like, I still sometimes get anxiety before I go on stage because it's just how my nerves are wrecked. But I think it is easy to be vulnerable in a song because I just feel like some platforms, people aren't going to judge you in a way. They're going to accept you. And so it's different when you're like kind of speaking out in front because people don't really have a lot of context. Mm-hmm. So if they can hear a project or if they can hear the music around it or they can hear the next poem afterwards, they can get the whole world of like where you're coming from. So as an artist, because you have to show yourself, you have to have they have to understand your story, all of that. I think it makes it easier than just being out there as a drop of water, in the world. But yes, and I've always been like kind of a closed person and very shy and scared, and like my mom heard me sing for the first time last year. Like I'm so, just I gotta let it out. So this has definitely helped me, even like being on stage and moving. Like it's just all new, but it feels good. It does feel free. It feels free.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing about music is by you putting yourself out there from a place of vulnerability, somebody listening from a place of vulnerability, they can identify with that, of course, and that's what makes music at the end of the day so powerful and very cool. I want to get to the EP, but such a big part of your story is where you're from and the city of Atlanta. We were speaking downstairs before we went live here just about how special that city is, from legends like Babyface to collectives like Organized Noise and Outkast. To this day you have Migos making noise down there, and that collective, and you guys of course are part of that, and the collective that you're a part of. What is it about Atlanta that just consistently, we're going back 20 to 25 years, maybe even further, that has just produced such groundbreaking, incredible music?
I think one thing that I always express is that we can walk around Atlanta and don't feel like we have to be be anything. Like we could be ourselves. There isn't, there's so many different colors that live there too. So it doesn't feel like, oh, I have to dress this way. I have to be that way. I have to do this. I have to make music like this. I have to do that. And it feels comfortable. And it just makes you want to be like freeing. Like even like the nature, we walk outside, there's a lot of trees and it's breezy, and also the community is really nice, tight knit, and I think we all just like accept each other and we all want each other to make it. And Atlanta also has like a lot of history as far as like even us as like African Americans. We live right by like Martin Luther King Memorial and Auburn Avenue, like we live over there. So I just think there's a tight community of musicians and artists, poets, like all of these people who really want to make the community like better and keep it thriving. Yeah. So that makes it, that helps a lot too, because we actually care about, where we live and how we see ourselves in the world.
Definitely. You make an excellent point I want to hear your answer too to this question, but you make an excellent point about that freedom to create in Atlanta. Because if you think about the names, I kind of rolled off there isn't an Atlanta sound. And I think that kind of holds some cities back. I know here in New York, not so much now, but a time ago, there was sort of an older generation versus newer generation hip hop sort of debate, because there was such an authentic New York hip hop sound that these new kids, they weren't sounding like that, and I don't think you can say that for Atlanta, because there is that freedom, right? Where every generation, it's got the same soul, it's got the same sort of vibrance, and it's got the same energy, but it's a different sound. I think that's a beautiful point.
Could I make a point too?
Yes, please.
Atlanta is kind of like a hub. Like when you go to Atlanta, it's really hard to find someone who's like actually from Atlanta. There are just a lot of people who come from like different states or the surrounding states. So I think that also helps like create like, hey, I can be myself still. Like I come to this new city and I'm gonna like make it, I guess you can say. If they don't want to move to like New York or LA, Atlanta is like one of the places where I feel it's like another hub where people can, you know, do anything, like technology too, whatever.
I mean, make no mistake, that's the music city in America right now. There was a time, I believe almost a year ago now, coming up at the top of 2017, where about half of the Billboard Hot 100 top 10, so those are the 10 most popular, successful songs in the country, were from Atlanta artists.
Lit.
Crazy. So what do you think is so special about the town? Is there anything you can add to what Isis just said?
I would just add that it was so easy for us to really build our community of friends and people to work with, because where we were working, the vintage store that we were working at was also a cultural hub, and a lot of cool kids would come and hang out, or, you know, people would come there to perform or whatever, just to come. And from there, I felt like it was really easy for us to build our community and people who love us and people who we can work with and just be free with. And I think that's how Atlanta is in general.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful.
It is a cool city, cool town. Let's get to this EP that's coming out a week from today. If you're watching live right now, a week from today, Friday the 19th, this is available everywhere. But right now, very important, it's available for pre-order. So if you want to check out Caught, what other singles are out, by the way? So we got Caught Out. There are
Borders.
Borders. I was going to say, I love Borders. Is Borders going to be on this as well? That's amazing.
We have a song called Holographic Glory, and if you pre-order the project, you get Not Discuss It.
Okay, that's awesome. Like one of those instant grat tracks, as they say. Now there's 7 tracks, 3 interludes, so you're getting like 10, bodies of work right there, but only 1 feature, and I love that. I was telling you backstage that when a debut project comes out, I don't like the features, right? I want to get to know you. I want to hear what you have to say. Was that a purposeful move, only having 1 feature on the record?
No, it wasn't purposeful. We just thought that this song in particular would sound cool with a rapper on it. And the rapper who's on it, his name is Deontay Hitchcock. He's amazing. I actually went to elementary, middle, and college with him, middle school and college with him.
No way.
Yeah, which is amazing. But he's so talented. I didn't know he was a rapper until like last year, because he would post videos on Twitter of him like rapping in his car. But he's amazing. Like he has projects out and things like that. And his verse is really dope on this song on our project named Tides. It's really good.
Speaking of titles of songs and also the project overall, Running to the Sun, can you sort of explain where that title comes from?
Sure. The title, Running to the Sun. So writing this project, we're a water sign, so we're very emotional. And, we were just like going through a lot. So we just wanted to kind of talk about our experiences, like real life, like relation. We wrote every lyric, so it's all us. And it just got us out of a like dark spot, like dark place. And it was very therapeutic. It helped us heal. And, when you think about like running to the sun, you're running to the light, you're running out of all of that darkness and negativity. It's about seeing like the light at the end of the tunnel. And also, the sun comes up, it's a new day. It's our new project, new phase of our lives.
Yeah.
It's all new. So we just wanted to like embrace that phase.
Yeah, absolutely. Your debut project, it's kind of cool to sit down with you guys today, a week ahead of this, because it's a moment that you think about probably your entire life, or if you have aspirations to be an artist, right? Your first project that you put out into the world. What do you guys want to accomplish with this record?
We just want the world to know who we are. This is just an introduction of who we are. And the interludes and intros on the project really shows our personality, and also the music. It's our personal experiences and what we've gone through. So we just hope that people know who we are from this project and looks forward to more music coming from us and more of our story.
Yeah, absolutely. Just the beginning. Anything to add, Isis, about what you'd like to accomplish?
Yeah, we just want to heal and inspire with our music. So that's the theme.
Absolutely, guys. Well, we do have time for some studio audience questions. We got our friends here. Where is the first question going to come from?
Right here.
Hi.
Hello, ladies. Hi. You guys have such a unique musical style. I wanted to know, has it ever been difficult to stay authentic to your style when everyone else is trying to be not authentic pop music? They want to, be number one on the charts. Has it ever been hard to stay authentic to yourselves?
I would say no, it's never been hard because, it was hard in the beginning because we didn't necessarily know what our sound was. So that's why we had to really create our own genre. And I don't think it's been that difficult because we would just make music because we loved making it and all the sounds were true to what we liked. So
yeah, I also think it's about like what we think success is. So like it's kind of like, I'm happy right now. Like, as long as people like, hear the project and they love it and we can perform and like express ourselves, that's what like matters to us. So yeah, that's it.
Next question.
Hey.
Hi.
I really appreciate y'all for, not just existing, but just having the vibe and everything out there and what you do with music. Because as musical artists, you're not just singing and performing songs. There's literally a whole heart and soul that goes before it to bring that out there. So that brings me to wonder what that process is like as an artist, because it's not just songwriting. It's being like your own brand, being your own like kind of boss, and then promoting and everything. So I wanted to know in your process what stays the same each time you make something new and what changes really, besides the content.
Well, we've known each other since 2012, and it's been like a process, and it still is like understanding like the business side and understanding the music side, and then there's the creative side. So when I say music, I mean just like actually making sure it sounds good, but like creativity too. I think it's more like just like your mental health. That's really like the key. So I think as long as that's like together and organizing ourselves, like making sure we can separate like business and like personal feelings and all of those things, like I'm trying to like show you, but yeah, that's a hard question to answer. But I don't know. No, that's good. Did that like help some?
No, it helps a lot to know
okay.
that you have to just have a different mindset. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
and like stay with like family, like keep like friends and people who you really trust around you. Like we have a really great like team behind us. It's not just us, but when I say team, they help us like organize ourselves, our lives. We would not be here if they didn't tell us to be here. Because I would have been asleep, honestly.
We have time for, I love that. We have time for one final question. Where will it come from? Right here.
Hi, thank
Hi.
you. Hey, what's the best piece of advice that you ever got?
Give, but continue to give to yourself too.
this may sound cliche, but always stay true to yourself. That's so cliche. I'm sure everyone in this room has heard that before, but it's a real thing.
All right, well, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Again, the record, 7 tracks, 3 interludes, not 10, is out next Friday, the 19th. Run to the Sun, St. Beauty. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. Thank you, everyone.